The statue of Zeus at Olympia. The first Olympic Games were athletic contests held in ancient Greece to honor Zeus, the mighty king of the Greek gods. For over 800 years people marveled at the colossal statue of the god which stood in the great temple of Zeus at Olympia. It was made by Pheidias, one of the most brilliant sculptors of the ancient world. This gigantic statue was made from gold, ivory, and precious stones, and its size and beauty dazzled all who saw it. Olympia lies on a fertile plain in a part of southern Greece called the Peloponnese. It was a place of worship from about 1000 before Christ. The god Zeus is said to have thrown a thunderbolt which struck the earth there and marked it as a sacred spot. Olympia became one of the most important centers of the worship of Zeus in the Greek world and attracted many pilgrims. The Olympic Games. The Greeks beheld that the Olympic Games started in 776 before Christ. At first, only running races were held, but many exciting sports were added later, including chariot races, wrestling, and boxing. In time a great sacred and sporting complex developed at Olympia, with many temples and other religious buildings. There were also facilities for the games, a stadium for foot races, a gymnasium, and a course for horse races called a hippodrome. The games were held every 4 years and only people of Greek blood could take part. On the middle day of the games, 100 oxen were slaughtered and burned as a sacrifice to Zeus. In Anno Domini 391 the Roman Emperor Theodosius I stopped the games and closed the temples of Olympia because he felt they were not Christian. The games did not begin again until 1896. Sculpture in Greece. Sculpture in Greece was a highly prized art and graceful and dramatic sculptures were made to decorate buildings or to stand in public places. These statues represented gods and heroes and great events, or men and women of ideal beauty. At first statues were made of wood and clay but later marble and metals like bronze became more popular. The historian Pliny the Elder says there were 3,000 statues of gods and athletes at Olympia. The home of Zeus. The temple for Zeus at Olympia was built between about 468 and 456 before Christ. The architect was a man called Liban who designed the temple in the Doric style, which was plain but very impressive. 34 Doric columns surrounded the temple, which was magnificently adorned. At each end a triangular section of the roof called the pediment was filled with sculptures, and carvings showing tales from Greek legends ran around the temple. Patterns in red, blue, and gold were painted on the tops of columns. The sculptures too were brightly painted and must have looked very much alive. Pheidias the Sculptor. Shortly after the temple was built Pheidias, c. 500 to 432 before Christ, a sculptor of Athens, was chosen to make a great statue of Zeus to stand inside it. Pheidias trained as a sculptor with the great artists of Greece, and was the first to make chryselephantine statues. He said the god was seated on a throne richly decorated with gold, ebony, and precious stones. He wore a crown of olive leaves made of green enameled gold. In his right hand he held a figure of Nike, the goddess of victory. In his left hand, he held a scepter topped with a sculptured eagle. The statue is said to have stood about 13 meters high, that is as tall as a 3 or 4-story building. Making the statue. Pheidias made the statue on a wooden frame. Pieces of ivory were shaped and fitted to the frame to look like flesh, and this was apparently done so well that the joints could not be seen. The god's clothes and ornaments were made of gold. The statue was placed in the innermost part of the temple, which only priests could enter. It was said that when Pheidias finished the statue, he asked Zeus for a sign of approval, and immediately a bolt of lightning struck the floor in front of the statue. Afterward the spot was marked with a bronze base. The colossal statue astonished all who saw it, not only for its beauty, but because it perfectly showed the massive power and majesty of the god. The Legacy of Olympia. Olympia lay in ruins for over 1,000 years until it was discovered in 1766 by an Englishman, Richard Chandler. In 1829 French archaeologists began investigating Olympia and found some sculptures. German archaeologists began excavations there in 1875. Many of Olympia's buildings and the foundations of the Temple of Zeus were uncovered, and pieces of sculpture, coins, and pottery were found. In 1958, archaeologists discovered some remains of the workshop of Pheidias, where they found discarded tools and molds that had been used to make the statue. There was even a cup which had the words "One belonged to Pheidias" scratched on it. Olympia left its mark on the world. People have never tired of making huge statues of gods and famous people, and the Olympic Games are again the most exciting sporting event in the